What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another match review. My name is Joshua Joshi Howard. Today we're going to be talking about the recent game that took place on War Games Live at Clutch City down in Texas between Robert Moreland and Brandon Lovato. I think overall this had a couple of very interesting teachable moments in it, which is why I'm going to be talking about it right now. Other than that, it is kind of crazy that we're doing two of these in like 2 weeks. So happy birthday to someone, I guess. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. To start off with, this one did take place at the Clutch City GT, which we already know if you watched the video that happened earlier this week from Robert Moreland. He did go 6-0, getting second place overall at the event. And the list that he was playing was a Cadian Command Squad, 2 Royal Commanders, Ursula Creed, 10 Cadians, 3 units of 5 Rough Riders, 1 unit of 5 Death Riders, 2 units of 5 Creek Engineers, 1 unit of 5 Ratlings, 1 Cyclops, 2 Lemurous Vanquishers, and 2 Rugaldorn Battle Tanks. So it's a lot of tanks, it's a lot of firepower, and just enough things to go run around in the midboard. His opponent, of course, was Brandon Lovato. Ended up going 4-1 at this event with an ELO of 1628, so already in the top 5%, a very respectable player. His list was a little bit interesting for Rage Curse, Onslaught, Blood Angels. It was 2 Chaplains with jump packs, one of which had the Master of the Red Thirst, which is the once per game fight first. He had Commander Dante, Lamarties, a Combi Lieutenant, 3 units of Death Company with jetpacks, so 30 of them, 1 unit of 5 Infiltrators, which hung out on his home. 3 units of 3 Sanguinary Guard, 1 unit of 5 Scout Marines, and then 1 unit of 10 Vanguard Veterans with jump packs. They did not have any of the Storm Shields. It was all Inferno pistols, whatever the Melta pistols are called. And then lastly, he rented out with a Calidus Assassin. So there's a lot of, you just have 4 just bricks of melee threat, and then you have 3 units of 3 Sanguinary Guard as well to help round it out. They're kind of like your little trading pieces. The big thing here is, you have 4 units of, this is all like marine bodies. The most durable thing in this entire list is like the Sanguinary Guard because they have 3 wounds and a 4-up invul and a 2-up save. And then you have I think it's the Lamarties unit. It's -1 damage with a 6-up Feel No Pain. I think they all have a 6-up Feel No Pain, but it doesn't. 6-up Feel No Pain doesn't help you that much, especially against the volume of damage 3 that we put out. And so this is really going to be an army that typically relies on, one, having a ton of fight phase like manipulation. You have the fight first, you have the guaranteed fight on death for 2 CP, but the fight on death doesn't matter a whole lot up against our matchup, and then up against cheating matchups, you generally don't want to play 5 turns of Warhammer. With this style of list, you are really just trying to go crush people, use the Sanguinary Guard to kill their skirmishing pieces, hope that you don't die in the crackback, or at least ask that your opponent use bigger parts of their army to kill the Sanguinary Guard and the Scout Marines, and then you go kill those things with Death Company with jetpacks. The mission for this one was Purge the Foe on Crucible of Battle, Games Workshop Layout 1. Fairly normal stuff. One of the couple big things about this that does make it kind of fun is because you can start like tanks like right in here. You can drive here, and this is an existential threat from the beginning of the game. Crucible of Battle for a lot of melee armies, especially going up against shooting armies. And Brandon's list has basically no shooting. It's got a couple of pistols. You have some Infernal pistols. There's like a couple plasma pistols, but that's really about it in terms of shooting output. So Robert can very safely just deploy all on the line, everything in the open, because he knows his opponent cannot shoot him at all. Other big thing about this is this area is dead to Brandon. He cannot deploy here in the same way that Robert can deploy over here, because if you have a door in here, moves forward, and cross court, you're going to lose probably like 4 Marines out of a unit for free, whereas the reverse is not true. Anything that's standing here is not going to be dying for free for Robert. So it ends up being a lot of like extra deployment space here for the guard in ways that Marines cannot interact with. Let's go to talk about keys to the matchup. So this is one of the matchups where it is very reliant as a guard player on understanding that we actually basically get to move our opponent's models wherever we want them to. Because the Blood Angels list has basically 0 shooting, all the damage that it does, or very nearly all the damage that it does, is going to be in melee. And in order to be in melee, you need to be in base-to-base with your opponent, which means that we get to decide where our opponent's models are going to be. They're always going to be either in combat with a unit that we had last turn, or they're going to miss a charge and just be on the way to where they were going to go previously. What this means is we can use cheap units like the horses and engineers to force our opponents to be out in the open, and we can also use our Rogaldorns to kind of screen for each other. We can use the Vanquishers to screen for the Rogaldorns in order to make sure we can create a lot of space. Second key to the matchup is once we do that, we're going to shoot them. Rogaldorn battle tanks, so without the commander rerolls, will kill about 8 to 10 Marines without strat support, and 6 to 9 if in cover, and probably like 5 to 7 if they also pop Armor of Contempt, or the... Actually, I don't know if they have Armor of Contempt, but they definitely have a 5-up Feel No Pain that they can pop, so we'll be down to about 5 to 7 at that point. And then the other major thing that's a little bit unintuitive in this matchup against Ragecur's Onslaught is you want to charge them. Ragecur's Onslaught does not have access to fallback and charge anywhere, unlike Liberator Assault Group, which does have access to fallback and charge. And a lot of Ragecur's Onslaught damage is reliant on actually getting the charge off. You get bonus attacks when you charge, you get access to your Lance and Lethal stratagem, or maybe it's not Lance and Lethals, but whatever the other, like, it's like +1 strength, +1 AP stratagem, something like that. You need to have charged for basically all of the bonus damage that Ragecur's Onslaught is going to do to you, but if you get charged as Ragecur's Onslaught, you don't get any of those bonuses, and you lose a lot of your damage instantly. The other thing is, when you charge them, you get to decide where they stay, because they are very rarely anything that we're going to be charging with a tank is not going to be killing us back unless our opponent gets very, very lucky. So we can freeze a lot of our opponent's units just by doing this. Oh, excuse me. Next, I had a lot of people talking about how much they enjoyed this conversation that I did last time, but this is a basic expectation of what the primary flow is oftentimes going to look like on Purge the Foe. If you go first, you're oftentimes going to be getting a 0 or a 4, depending on whether or not you can find anything on your opponent's side to kill on the first turn, and the answer is often no. There's oftentimes nothing that you can kill. Whereas if you're going second, if your opponent draws like Area Denial or Cleanse or Secure No Man's Land, they're going to put something out on the middle of the board, and if you kill that, you're going to be getting yourselves a nice 4 points there. From there, you tend to go like you tend to be trading 8s a lot of the time, but going second because you have control over, or it's not that you have control, you get to know how many things your opponent killed, so you get to have a better understanding of how much risk you need to take in order to kill the equivalent number of units to deny your opponent those kill mores, which means that going second oftentimes means that you're going to be getting at least 112 somewhere along the way. And then if you still have an army at the end of the game, you can usually get the kill more, you can usually get the hold more at the very end. So you're going to be looking typically at a +4 here, and this is oftentimes a +8. And this one is also sometimes a +4. So Purge the Foe is one of these missions that tends to be very, very go second favored. You have to be in a position where you can kill a lot going first. So in general, if your opponent still has an army at the end of the game, the person going second is oftentimes looking at a +16, but sometimes it's like a +12. So somewhere in here is typically what you're expecting the person going second to have a primary advantage if you play all 5 turns. Now, naturally, if you are going first, you don't want this to happen. You do not want to be down 12 points by yourself. Just for free, so you generally have to be pushing the tempo quite a bit as the person who is going first. And we'll go ahead and use that to analyze some of the decisions that are made throughout this game. Okay, so this is what deployment looks like. For Robert, he's got a Death Rider squad, a Rough Rider squad, Dorn Battle Tank, Dorn Commander, Big Cadian Brick with Ursa Creed, Leon's Vanquisher, more Rough Riders, Engineers, Ratlings, Dorn Battle Tank, Dorn Commander, Engineers, Vanquisher, pretty normal stuff. There's nothing really here that I think really needs to be touched upon. Just have to be careful, again, that some people think that you can go down here, but if this terrain, if the wall is up against the edge of the footprint, the Dorn doesn't fit because it is more than 5 inches wide. So, Robert ends up going this way, so don't need to worry about it at all. Okay, on the other side, you have 1 Death Company here, another Death Company here, 3 Sanguinary Guard, 3 Sanguinary Guard, Infiltrators hanging out, Combi Lieutenant, Calidus, Scout Marines, 3 more Sanguinary Guard, and then in reserve, he's got 1 Death Company Brick with Lamarties, and then Dante and the Vanguard Vets. Okay, so looking at this, makes a lot of sense overall. One of the big things to note is that if the scouts do try to come out in order to fight horses or whatever to try and get that kill one going first. You are likely going to get overwatched here by the Dorn, and then you are probably not going to be killing those. And then, of course, this is a fairly long charge. This is about 20, I think it's like 22 inches, I want to say. So it's quite far. You're asking to roll like at least a 10 on 3d6, which is not something you really ever want to be forced into doing. The only other reasonable kill is here with the Rattlings, but they're going to be like 1 inching the wall, so you do have to come around this way, and like none of these units you want to be spending out in order to try and do that. So overall, definitely a pretty big advantage here for Robert Moreland. I do think that this matchup in general on most just like normal primary missions, it is very, very difficult for Blood Angels to win into guard in general, but Purge the Foe is one where it becomes a little bit more interesting. Okay, so in this game, we do end up having Robert going first, so he does his scout moves. Of course, you have the engineers coming forward. These engineers, I think, could have been a little bit more aggressive. As always, if you are going first, scout directly at your enemy as quickly as you can. But, you know, they maybe lost like an inch of movement here, so not the biggest thing in the world. These scout marines move back such that they are not chargeable on this wall by the horses. A lot of stuff makes sense. Okay, so looking at the game now that we are going first, one of the major things that we are looking to do as the guard player is we are trying to find ways. One, we are looking for ways to hold more. The main way that we're going to be able to do this is we are going to stop our opponent from holding this and try to hold this one. And every time we do that, we ask our opponent to give us another unit coming out here, coming out over here in order to try and stop us from doing that. So we are going to be spending horses coming out here in order to threaten to hold more, force our opponent to play the game with us. And then the other major thing that we are looking to do is we're trying to make our opponent not really have anywhere safe to stand. This Dorito, the Angron pocket, whatever you want to call, this spot right here is the premium, the best spot in the entire like Games Workshop in order to create threat, because you're just fast. You're going wherever you want from this spot, and especially because your army is moving 12 with access to advance and charge. You can very plausibly threaten this objective. You can look to threaten the enemy home. It's just a ton of movement. So anything we can do to make this Dorito unsafe is going to be really, really good. Okay, with that, looking at top of one movement, we do, of course, have horses coming out here, horses coming out here. It does trigger a reactive move for the Combi Lieutenant. Rattlings come out, engineers come out, staging tanks a little bit better. I think this could have been a slightly more aggressive. Could have gotten maybe another couple of inches to be like here, but not a huge deal. One of the major things to point out again is I've had a couple people talk about this. This is an ongoing conversation you hear from people, but these footprints here have no scatter terrain on them. And what that generally means is you can just put tanks on here. Some people say it's blue, so you can move through them, but you can't end on them. The only thing that you can't do is you can't end on like barrels or crates or little walls. Like if there's a little wall here, then you could not put a tank here because it's in the wall. But because there's nothing there, you can just put the tank here, and there's nothing stopping you. So that is one of the big things that you are capable of doing, is just standing a tank here. It's a really good spot. And on the other side here, we do have Moreland coming out and using the barrel of this tank in order to see some of the scout marines that are hiding back here. So this is fairly aggressive, but I do really like it in general because it forces your opponent, or you're getting that 4 points. So instead of having the 0 to 4 expectation from primary at the beginning, we are of course turning that to 4 to 4. So of that potential 16 primary deficit, we're already clawing 4 of it back immediately. Other than that, going to be scoring the Secure No Man's Land, going to be scoring the Cleanse, so it's just going to be free points. Rattling is going to take a pop shot, then jump back. Makes a lot of sense. That is exactly what happens. Rattlings jump out, they do 0 damage to the Calidus, then they go back, and then the Dorn kills Scout Marines. Not a surprise, not a whole lot coming out. There is a spot where Moreland tries to throw a grenade, and then at the end of the turn, like after they've done everything else, realize, oh, I was not legally able to do that. I was too close to the Calidus. So don't worry about this. No damage was taken by the Combi Lieutenant. So overall, makes a pretty good first turn. You are creating a really big threat here, just like we were talking about before. If this Dorn is unanswered, next turn it is going to go like probably here in order to try and shoot anything that is staging in this ruin. It is very important to note that if you are playing this yourself, this Dorn wants to go this way, not this way. Why? Pause if you want to take a moment to think about it for yourself. Okay, welcome back. The answer is if the Dorn is standing here, anything that melees against this is standing in the open. You're just in the open and you're going to die to these firing lines immediately afterwards. However, if the Dorn comes out over here, and let's say it's here, and they come out and charge, they're going to be standing probably like this, and if they kill it, they can consolidate off of the terrain piece, so this firing lane doesn't exist anymore, and you only have this firing lane. So you want to make sure that you are standing in a position where your opponent is going to be standing in the open after they try to kill you. All right, so from here, Brandon makes some interesting moves. Makes a couple of things make a lot of sense. You do have to come out. The Sanguinary Guard do have to come kill. The Sanguinary Guard basically do have to come kill right away. You cannot afford to be giving Moreland to hold Moors at the beginning of the game. So you do have to get the horses off of here. You do have to get the horses off of here. And everything else is staging up. Death Company move, Death Company move. Calidus moves to here to make any Overwatch cost 2 CP. Combat Lieutenant moves to here on the corner, just to be kind of annoying. Sanguinary Guard come to stage. You can let Robert hold this one as long as you end up having OC on at least one of these objectives. Okay. However, one of the big things that happened in this game I thought was rather interesting. So as soon as... So we can kind of go back, and you can see the position of the horses here. When they reactive move, this is the position that Robert moves them to. And I'm going to show you guys one of the things that I oftentimes do when I'm looking through these games in order to help myself understand distances, in order to help myself understand different things that I'm looking at. So this is what the position looks like. This is a spliced image. You can kind of see like right here where it like got spliced. This is what it looked like when the Sanguinary Guard moved out and the horses were here. And I'm using a couple of different things in order to help me understand what distances are looking like. I realize now, as I'm talking about this, this is a 5-inch piece, so this is a little bit longer than it needs to be. However, we know that this ruin is 12 by 6, meaning that this line down here on the bottom is 6 inches. By taking that and rotating it in PowerPoint or Adobe Photoshop or Paint or whatever, as long as you make sure that it maintains the length as you go about it, you can get approximate distances across the board. And from here, we have 1, 2, 3, and about a third. So this is like maybe 2 inches, more or less. So we know that the distance between this Death Company unit and the barrel of this Dorn is approximately 20 inches. Okay? We also know that from the barrel of this Dorn to this guy is, it's somewhere between 8 and 9 inches, right? So this is a decently long charge, and if you go for this, if you don't advance, you're looking at a 7 or an 8-inch charge, which is most melee players don't want to take charges that long if they can help it. They are just really easy to fail, and you can't rely on them. Okay, now going to the reactive move that Robert actually did, you can see that these horses moved over here, and this time I used the proper thing. So this is 4 inches here, and that means this is 4 inches as well. So going back, if the Sanguinary Guard were to charge the horses from off screen to here, they're very easily going to be within 4 inches. 3 Sanguinary Guards should kill these 5 horses an overwhelmingly high percentage of the time, meaning that this Dorn is almost always going to get consolidated into afterwards. Okay? Now, going back to what I was talking about before, having the ability for this Dorn to come out over here and shoot into this pocket is a huge, huge threat. So instead of having the horses come back over this way, the move that I proposed in my Discord is this instead. And I've used... I put a circle in PowerPoint over this horse in order to approximate the size over here. And what you can see from this is a couple of different things. One, if the horses are here, again recognizing that this green line is actually 5 inches, not 4 inches. If a sanguinary guard is here and they charge to here, it's going to be more than 4 inches. You're not going to be able to consolidate into the tank. That's point number one. The second thing is you also have like an inch of engagement range here, which means that even at the best is about, this looks like 9 inches away. So if these Death Company come out and want to stand here, they're looking at an 8 or 9-inch charge into the Dorn. That's not something melee players want to take either. That is simply too far of a charge to ever be reliable. And if you come out here and you're the Death Company, you're standing here, and you miss that 8 or 9-inch charge, you're just dead. Like, the Death Company are gone, having accomplished absolutely nothing. So, this is what I would have proposed as an alternative reactive move, kind of going back to some of the stuff that we were looking at in our last game of David Purcell versus Cameron. Using this to take up space and try and prevent our opponent from going for things. And if we had done this reactive move instead, it makes it difficult for Brandon to take this Death Company unit that is hanging out here and putting it over here, because this Dorn can potentially come out this way and shoot at the Death Company here. So we are finding ourselves in a position where the Death Company have to be here, and they can't stage in the primo position. They have to stage in a place that is still good, but nowhere near as potent as the one here in the middle, because this one can threaten our home objective. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting. I know Jawad Salah in my Discord also was saying that he would have just scouted directly backwards and tried to make this Sanguinary Guard charge into like a 7 or potentially an 8-inch charge, depending on how close they actually got. Just make this charge unlikely to hit, which is, I think, is also plausible, but then it doesn't really solve the problem of, Dorn got touched if they do make the charge, because they're going to burn CP to make sure that they do have a pretty good chance of hitting the charge. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about when I watched this. I think this was the first major teachable moment. Okay, so this is what the movement looked like. There was a shooting phase. He killed like a horse in it, and then 6-inch charge into these horses, 7-inch charge into these horses. Horses die. Dorn gets touched. Makes sense. Everything goes through. Examining the board from this position, even though we would have been way happier if the Sanguinary Guard were stuck like here, and then we could probably like put our barrel here in order to shoot whatever we want down over here. We're still overall pretty happy, right? Instead of giving up a 0 to 4 on primary, we got a 4 here. So we have nullified the first problem point for going first on Purge the Foe. The second thing is there was 10 points of secondary for Robert, where it was 5 points of secondary for his opponent. So we have nullified 4 of the potential 16 points of primary deficit that we were looking at, and then we've also got another 5 points. So we are now looking at a position where we are down like 7-ish points across the game, which is still not ideal, but is a lot better than we were looking at previously. So we are very happy relative to what things could have been on this position. Going into top of 2, a couple of things happen. So there are still a Death Company brick in reserves. There's still a Vanguard brick in reserves. And so Robert ends up taking engineers, coming out this way, trying to force anything backwards in terms of rapid ingresses. This Dorn moves back ever so slightly, trying to make it harder to come out and tag. Horses come out in order to score area denial. Vanquisher comes out in order to shoot Sanguinary Guard. This barrel still has an angle on like one of them. We put a Vanquisher on this, and then basically the rest of our army kind of stays still, which is kind of okay. The one thing that I didn't see Robert do that I would have probably done in this position is these Ratlings. I would have just rolled in advance on them. Big thing for this is, so you're an inch back from the wall, using this as our metric. 6 gets you to here, which means that the rapid ingress would have been pushed back to here. And as we can see, this guy aka like this guy is the closest. So every inch that we roll on the advance, so if we roll a 3, we go to here, means that the rapid ingress gets pushed back to here. Pushes back potential situation where none of these guys are in cover when we do choose to shoot at them. I didn't see an advanced rolled, but something that I would have considered trying to do. Again, if they do charge us here and just are on the footprint, cool. We're now in a position where we can shoot them immediately afterwards, and they don't have anything cheap to trade for our ratlings. They have to use some of these big bricks in order to do it. Other than that, makes a lot of sense. Getting a lot of points, getting air denial of prisoners. This Dorn shoots at his feet, kills 2 Sanguinary Guard here, kills 3 Marines out of this brick, and then Dorn and Vanquisher shoot the Sanguinary Guard to death, so we do end up getting our 8 points of primary on this turn. Not a whole lot of super interesting things happen here. Only thing that really... There's a couple of things that happen throughout this game where the sequencing is a little off, and one of them is Robert ends up like shooting at the Sanguinary Guard and then is like, oh, I never punched you, and then rolls some attacks. I don't know if it mattered or not, but it was like I feel like it's a little bit too late after we have already rolled shooting attacks, but is what it is. We've done most of the things we wanted. Our opponent rapid ingress into the open. We got to kill a couple Marines for it. Pretty cool. And then our opponent goes in and says, it is time to party. So on our opponent's turn, they do have to have one big all-in that is going to be is going to do so much damage, there's not really an opportunity to come back. And Brandon decides that it is this turn. So he brings in Dante and the Vanguard Vets, who are way less scary against any of our tanks. One Death Company unit comes out here, other Death Company unit comes out here. This is the 7 plus a character. The other Death Company unit comes out here. Sanguinary Guard come out this way, and I think Brandon underestimates a couple of things. So we'll go ahead and talk about them in the charge phase. A shooting phase does happen. I think like 1 horse dies again. So I think this is going to be mostly a teachable moment for people who are playing melee armies, less than it is for guard players, okay? So the first thing here is that the sequence of the charges, I think, was incorrect. The first thing is that this 7-man that was like here-ish rolls a charge into this Dorn, which is the wrong order to do this in. The order that we want to do, and Joe on Wargames Live actually called it out really well, is we want to roll this charge first, okay? I don't know what the actual distance is. I'm going to guess it's like a 3 or a 4 in order to make the charge. It's pretty close. So we want to roll this one first. And the idea, let's see, is there a cleaner spot? Yeah. So we have like this unit here, and it's going to take like a 3 or 4 to make this charge, okay? And we have this unit here. The reason why we do this unit first is we want to get in, yes, but the bigger thing is we hope that we are rolling high. So when this unit comes in, if we roll like a 9 or something, we can take this unit and put it something like this, okay? We're going to take up a lot of basing space on this side of the tank. Then, after we've done this, then we roll this one, again hoping we roll, this one we're hoping we roll medium, like a 7 or something. And the idea here is that this is going to come out this way, hoping to not have to base here, so that we can honestly kind of go like this. And the reason why we want to do this is if this unit goes in, charges, comes here, and kills the Dorn, then this unit that was here, that was kind of strung out, is going to pile in here, tag, and do a little bit of extra damage. But just as importantly, touch the Dorn so that it can't use its blast weapons into its own combat. But because we went in the other order, and he rolled a 5 into a 4, so he rolled low, so it kind of didn't matter. The basing space that is like here, that we were hoping was going to get taken up by this unit, ends up getting taken up by this unit, and this is simply too far for us to consolidate into, and this unit cannot tag this Dorn, meaning that this unit is basically just in the open, it's probably going to die. Next thing that I'm kind of looking at, and the what Brennan actually did, is he took this Sanguinary Guard unit, which was here, and he charged it into the Rattlings here. He charged it into the Death Corps of Krieg. And I don't know if Brandon was expecting to kill either of these, but the Sanguinary Guard in Rage Curse Onslaught start with 4 attacks, and you add 1, because they all have the spears. So you have 5 attacks, okay? The problem with this is there are 5 models in each of these units, and the odds, I don't know what the odds are for 5 dice, but I know this from Bulgren math. The odds of rolling at least 1/6 on 3 dice are about 40, they're about 40%. Meaning that the odds of rolling 1/6 on 5 dice, I'm going to guess they're about 50%. And you're doing this twice. So realistically, if you take 50% and you do it again, 75% of the time, roughly, you're going to roll at least 1/1, and you need every single attack to go through. So if you kill 4 dudes here, and there's 1 dude remaining, and you kill 4 dudes here, there's 1 dude remaining, it's a bad time. The Sanguinary Guard unit is going to effectively die for nothing. So I didn't love this charge. The third thing about this that I didn't really love is I didn't see Brandon roll a charge from Dante into these horses. It is going to be a 9. And it's not a charge that you can plan on, right? It's not a charge that you're going to be like, this is part of my plan. It's giving you an opportunity to get lucky, right? If Dante rolls the 9 and he gets the charge into the horses, great. You're going to take up basing space on these horses, and then Dante and the Van Vets are going to kill all the horses, and then this Death Company unit gets to pile in, and all of their attacks get to go into this Vanquisher. And if you don't hit the 9, well, then you just stay here and this unit's safe. Right? Like, there's no real downside to rolling it. And the other big reason why I would want to go for this 9-inch charge that's not just it allows the Death Company to swing to the Vanquisher is we already have 1, 2, 3 units of 10 Death Company out in the open. Our opponent has, has 3 Dorns. We're hoping this one dies. And that means that this unit that is, like, here is actually pretty safe, right? There's not a whole lot of downside to being here because our opponent has to start picking and choosing. They can't kill every single brick. Remember, one of the first things that we talked about was that the math is like a Rogaldorn battle tank is going to kill 8 to 10 Marines, right? So if we go back to the position that we were in, we already lost 3 Marines. So if we have 10 plus a character, and then 7 plus a character, and then 10 plus a character, and then another 10 plus a character, right? Realistically, we can kill, like, a bunch of this, but we definitely can't kill all of it. And this Death Company can maybe, like, pile in, like, you can maybe engineer a situation where you pile in and consolidate and touch this tank. And if this goes well and you touch this tank, you maybe kill this tank, but more importantly, give yourself an opportunity to touch this tank. You kill 1 Dorn, you tag a 2nd Dorn, you tag a 3rd Dorn. You win the game on the spot, right? The game ends, and there's nothing that Robert can really do. He just will not have the damage output because if he's shooting his non-blast weapons into combat, he doesn't have the volume because most of the relevant volume from a Dorn comes from its blast weapons. And if you do fall back, well, that's an entire tank that's just not shooting for a turn. That is massive. You are suddenly in a position where you have all these Marines in the midboard, and you aren't going to die. And that's how you win the game. So that's why I think this was a really teachable charge phase, in particular, coming out from Brandon. So to recap, from this position, we take this charge first with the goal of taking up as much basing real estate here as possible. We do this so that this unit, when it charges, can swing around and try and get into position where if we get lucky and kill it with the first Death Company unit, probably doesn't happen, but it might, then we can try and pile in and or consolidate. Most importantly, just touch this Dorn. Second thing that we do, We take Dante and we attempt whatever charge. It started as a 9, it might be a 10. Um, but we take this charge because if we get lucky and we do make the charge, this unit gets a lot more freedom to move. Where when it makes this charge, and you can be here, if you get lucky and kill this, you can definitely touch the door. And even if you don't, because we are like this immediately afterwards, this can come to like here, something like this, where it won't have to base, and they can probably touch the door and afterwards. So we give ourselves an opportunity to be lucky here. We give ourselves an opportunity to be lucky here, but by doing it in this one first, and then this one, we have removed one source. We have removed one opportunity to be lucky. By not declaring this charge at all, we have removed our second opportunity to be lucky. And now we're in a position where we we need to get really lucky on our damage output. Otherwise, we're going to lose a ton of Marines. Um, and that's more or less what happens. They do end up losing horses. This Dorn ends up going down. Robert ends up wasting a lot of CP on CP rerolls throughout the game. Smaller thing in general. But also, just like we were talking about, we lose 4 Ratlings here. We lose 4 Engineers here. This one ends up mattering a bit more. We'll talk about it in a moment. But as we go into the top of 3 command, we're fairly happy with the situation overall. Robert going first got a 4 on primary to the 4 of the opponent. Then he gets an 8 on primary to, I think it's a 12? Let's see. 1, 2, and then Robert only killed 1? Yeah, Robert only killed 1. So 8 to 12. So we're minus 4 on primary, but this is kind of what we were expecting. And then on secondary, we're still plus 9 just because we've been drawing better. So we are in a pretty decent situation overall, and now our opponent's entire army is out in the open. A couple of important things to notice. There are 3 enemy bricks in the open. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 Dorns. 1, 2, 3, which are all untagged. So we are going to kill most of these Marines. And if we get lucky, we can kill all of these Marines. We also have this Russ over here, which can contribute damage here or here. We're very likely to kill, there's 37 Marines and 3 characters. We're very likely to kill, like, 30 or so of these Marines. And if we get lucky, we can kill every single one. If we can do all of that, as long as we kill like 30-ish Marines, we are probably not losing another tank this game, because Dante and the Vanguard vets don't kill tanks very effectively. It's a lot of, I think it's power swords, but it might be chain swords. They have to get lucky on their Inferno pistols, which are short-ranged, and they're strength 9, so you have to win on 5s, which is not super exciting. The one thing to note here, and this isn't really a knock on Robert as much as it is something that a lot of guard players do incorrectly, is during the command phase, first thing you do is you draw cards. Okay. Second thing, we are in your command phase. So in the command phase, you give your orders, and you can do the sticky strat if you want. But just a sticky strat, not Cadian sticky. Okay. As you get to the end of your command phase, next thing you do is the Battle Shock step. I'm going to shorten it to Battle S. So you do your Battle Shock steps here. And then the last thing you do after you've done all of this is New Orders. New Orders is the stratagem by which you redraw cards. You have to do your orders. You have to do the Battle Shock step. Our opponents, they have to do Oath of Moment. They have to, they have already needed to like call the wall. Most things that happen in the command phase happen here and here before you can draw. Drawing is the last thing you do in your command phase, other than score primary and sticky with Cadians. So just something to keep in mind. I see a lot of guard players do this incorrectly, and it's definitely something that I would strongly encourage people to hold their opponents accountable to. Make sure you ask before they draw cards, like, hey, have you done your Battle Shocks? Have you done an Oath of Moment? Is there anything else you need to do in your command phase? Yeah, that's just something that everybody can do better. Just note New Orders, end of command phase, not during. Okay. So from here, like we said, we're in a pretty happy position. We're going to do our best to kill 1, 2, 3 bricks. And really important note is up here, because this unit charged and did not kill the Dorn here. It ended up dying to this brick. You have man here, who are touching the terrain piece because they were not able to consolidate back towards the objective. Really, really important. Okay, so going to movement, we're going to try and kill all of this. The Rattling here dies because it fails a Battle Shock and then fails a Desperate Escape. So that will give 1 kill. These things that were destroyed for any reason do count for Purge the Foe. So our opponent does get a kill there. But this Dorn moves backwards, touches the objective, I think, in case to try and get lethal hits. Cadians move up, try and shoot. This Rust gets out of combat, moves forward. Engineers move up so that they can throw a mine and grenade. Vanquisher moves up so it can shoot. As we go into shooting, this is the second time where the sequencing is a little out of order in ways that kind of matter. Because this Vanquisher shoots and then Robert remembers to do the remote mine after like there are injured guys. So again, I don't love that. That's one of the things where I'd be like, oh crap, it's on me. But either way, this ends up dying, 2 grenades and whatnot. It probably doesn't matter that much, but it is one of those sequencing things that you do have to be aware of. Anyway, the rest of the shooting phase goes incredibly well for Robert. He takes this. I think this one shoots first, and it shoots like close range stuff here, and then longer range stuff here. And then this one shoots second, shoots close range stuff here, long range stuff here. These Cadians then almost finish this off. And then the last thing is this Dorn. Shoots last. And the big thing about shooting here is it matters a lot that guys are touching. If you did not have guys that were touching this terrain piece here, such that this Dorn would always have line of sight, you would need to shoot this one earlier in order to shoot here, because otherwise it would run out of targets. But because they were touching the terrain, you can end up doing this one last. Yeah, so you end up killing all of the Marines here, so that's 10 Marines, and you kill all the Marines here, so that's 7 plus a character, and then you kill all the Marines here, so that's another 10 plus a character, so that is 27 Marines plus 2 characters out of the possible, out of the possible 27 and 3 characters. So, like, this could not really have gone much better. And this kind of goes why, seeing all of this kind of goes back to why I really wanted to see Dante and the Vanguard Vets attempt this charge here, is because let's imagine everything else happens the way it does. Wouldn't you rather have the Vanguard Vets here next turn? Yeah, I think you would. The other big thing that happens is this charge, Rogaldorn rolls pretty high. It looks like it rolls a 9. Touches this one dude and puts OC5 on this objective here. So now Guard is threatening a potential hold more, hold 1, hold 2, hold 3 to the only 1, 2 for the Marines. So we are in a position from this spot where we should not lose another tank for the rest of the game. Dante is a great beat stick. The Vanguard Vets with jump packs will need to get pretty lucky on their Inferno pistols or just roll really, really hot on the rest of their attacks. Otherwise, they're probably not killing a tank for the rest of the game. And this is a problem. However, Brandon takes a really intelligent turn here overall. So there is, just for note, there is a Cyclops that is hanging out up in the top left. But he recognizes, hey, I already got a Purge the Foe because this Rattling fell back and died. So I'm already getting my kill 1. I'm probably not getting... Like, my opponent just killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. I'm not going to be killing that many things on my turn, so I'm never getting a kill more, never stopping a kill more. But I've already gotten my kill. And with the established locus that I've drawn, with this guy already scoring behind enemy lines, as long as he passes my Battle Shock, I can just get 4 points for this guy hanging out. And that is exactly what Brandon does. His entire movement phase, you can see, is like nothing. Like nothing moves. And then 5 Rough Riders come down over here in order to rapid ingress, just to make sure that they come in, because it's bottom of 3, it's the last opportunity. These things punch each other, and that's it. So as we go into the top of 4, overall, we can see that Moreland, neutralized here, is -4, but he gets +4 here because he ends up getting a kill more, so these neutralize. And then we're going to be getting an 8 on primary for hold more, and probably at least 1. So we're looking at a 12. Our opponent is probably looking at an 8 here, unless they can find an opportunity to kill more. And then here, even if we get an 8 and this is a 16, we are now only looking at a, because we get a +4 here and a -8 potentially here, we're only looking at a net -4. Remember, this is a primary where at the very beginning, you start at potentially a -16. That's a lot. We have recovered 12 of those points, and we're scoring secondary better than our opponent overall. This is equal. This is equal. This is 10 to 5, so we are +5 on secondary overall. We have recovered a lot of the primary deficit, but we still need to push a little bit. So we need to find ways to do that. We need to make sure that if we are not getting kills, we are preventing our opponent from getting those kills. So there's a couple small things in here that I don't love in terms of what Robert actually did. This coming over here, he has recover assets, so he's going to do like recover with the horses. So that's going to be 5 on here. This is almost always happening for 3. But the last thing is there's not a ton. There is still the Sanguinary Guard here. I took a screenshot at the wrong time. But we are going to get this, so we are going to get our +4 for kill 1. And then I actually do like that Robert leaves this dude alive. He does not shoot this, just to make sure that he has something that he can very easily kill on turn 5. So that was actually pretty smart. But anyway, we took a very much a nothing turn on bottom of 3. We took a very much a nothing turn on top of 4, and it kind of passes right back to our opponent. And this is where Brandon feels like he needs to take some risks, because he ends up drawing a tempting target, and of course, this is the one marked as the tempting target. So looking at opportunities to do this, this one engineer that moved up. Oh, that was the other thing. I think the engineer that was here failed Battle Shock, so I really don't know what he's doing here. Even if he passes the Battle Shock, I'm not sure why he's here, because, like, this can come out and shoot him. And you can potentially send, like, this guy to go, like, charge this. And if this explodes, because it's a Cyclops, that also counts. So you're very looking at a quick, like, 1 kill, potentially 2 kill, in order to cancel out the one that was here, potentially a kill more right away. So, I mean, if this guy was just, like, here, you're fairly safe. But here comes the really big risk. So one of the big things that Brandon has looking at this position is he can fairly easily threaten a hold more at the end of the game, because this unit can put a ton of OC on this objective. You can find ways in order to hold this and this at the end of the game. So there are ways for him to score that hold more at the end of the game. However, the problem is he needs to kind of get some points, because this hold more is almost always going to come through unless you charge this unit into the terrain piece, or into the objective. So Brandon chooses to take this. He rolls like a 4, but Dante gives you +1, so he gets an extra 1, and he gets like a 17-inch advance overall here, and then charges out this way. The Calidus and the Infiltrators come here. They shoot this one dude. They kill like a horse or something. And then in the charge phase, Calidus hits the 9. Dante hits like the 6 or 7 or whatever in order to get into everything. They kill the engineers here. This died to shooting. But really, really importantly, with 2 kills coming out here for... Sorry about... Apologies to everybody. Um, when the horse charges in, they kill 3 or 4 of the horses, meaning if there's one horse remaining, the horse actually kills the Calidus back. So you end up getting the canceling out this one, and it ends up tying on the kills. So as we go into the top of 5, we do see that the hold 1 and hold more, and the kill does get this. So we are very quickly approaching a spot where Robert gets this, stops the 1-4. This is another expected -4 at some point, but getting 2 +4s here ends up finding you in a position where you're at worst -4 on primary overall for the game. And with Brandon very rapidly running out of resources, the 16 they're potentially looking at the end of the game isn't really that threatening. And especially because this unit comes out here, touches the Russ. You have 1, 2, 3 tanks that have nothing else to do other than shoot this unit, and this tank can go over here, shoot this dude. That's exactly what happens. This Dorn blasts this guy to death. You finally kill the chaplain that's here, and then the rest of the blast weapons coming out over here kill Dante and all the Vanguard veterans. Overall, we end up getting the 3 kills. They end up doing the last thing is these infiltrators kill this horse in order to get those kills there. But this is what the end score looks like. So a primary of 12 here at the end, because it might actually be a 16. No, because at the time, Guard held 1, 2, and the Marines held 1, 2, 3. Okay, so not a 16. But anyway, you do end up getting the 12, and then your opponent only gets the 8. So end score being 96-78. And he drew some secondaries, but he couldn't score anything because the only thing he had left was the infiltrators on the home objective. They're too far. So overall, Robert does end up getting a decent win here. The 2 most teachable moments that I think did happen. I'm going to go ahead and start with the reactive move. I think if Robert finds this line, the game is potentially a blowout, because either Brandon has to then attempt to move this here and take this like 7 or 8 inch charge, or attempt this and then potentially lose a hold more here. And if these risks don't work out, this Dorn runs forward to somewhere in here and kills any Death Company that are hanging out in this ruin. So this reactive move, like, destroys the game in a way that Brandon could not really have done anything about. Okay, other really teachable spot, of course, is this very complicated charge phase that Brandon went. Again, if you are looking to try and tag things where you aren't necessarily looking to kill them, you can use the first unit here in order to take up basing real estate, which allows you to swing further with the next unit. The other one is if you're going to be all-inning your entire army, all in your entire army. This unit not even attempting this charge, as far as I can remember, ends up being in a really awkward position. So remember, when we look at this position, you have Marines, 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 and then the next shooting phase, no Marines, no Marines, no Marines, 1 Marine, 2 Marine. So ends up losing like 90% of his army in the midboard just instantly. And then not in a position where if he could like go out and like tag everything on the next turn, like maybe it's playable, but it's still going to be a very rough spot. Anyway, congratulations to Robert Moreland getting 2nd overall at Clutch City. I hope this was useful and interesting to you guys watching this match review once again. Again, if you have more streams that are interesting that you think are good games, let me know. There was one at Scorched Earth Open for Guard that I don't think is particularly useful to go over. There were some pretty major mistakes that happened in that one. I would recommend that if you are interested more in that, just go analyze that game yourself. It is on Barely Battle Ready, which is on Twitch and on YouTube. Barely Battle Ready. If you do go watch that, tell Chuck I sent you. Chuck is a great dude. He was one of the guys who was commentating on it. Thank you guys so much for watching this match review. That's what I call it. I'll see you guys all next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.